Matt and Crystal sit in a ground blind. Crystal eats bacon. Crystal and Matt laughing in the ground blind. Crystal crossing her fingers at her desk. Crystal twirls. Crystal and Matt setting up the ground blind. Crystal and Matt hunting. Big game brochure. Crystal at a gun range. Crystal blows up a balloon. Family dinner outside on the patio. On-screen text. Colorado Parks and Wildlife logo. My first big game hunt. The hunt.
Today's the day! I cannot wait to share my hunting experience with you. Matt and I had an awesome time hunting for my white-tailed deer. Like, you will not believe the stories we got from that. Did I get it? Find out by watching this episode.
Crystal sitting on a ledge overlooking the city of Boulder. On-screen text. Hunt day 1. Matt makes a sandwich.
The first thing you need to know about hunting is that you have to wake up early.
4:30 a.m. Crystal putting on hunting clothes.
You need to be in position and quiet at least a half hour before the legal time you can start shooting, which means alarms are being set for 3:30, 4:30 in the morning.
Crystal putting on hunting clothes. Car driving at night. Clock reads 5:19 a.m.
I didn't know this before, but most big game hunts are only a few hours in the morning and a few hours in the evening. That's when the animals are on the move. You can nap in the middle of the day.
It's dark. Matt puts brush over the ground blind's windows.
We set up this ground blind a few days before the hunt so deer could get used to seeing it.
Ground blind in the middle of the field surrounded by brush and tumbleweed. Sunrise on the eastern plains. Rain.
And now we wait.
We're here in the blind.
Matt and Crystal sitting in a dark ground blind.
It's really early. Opening morning of second season. We're looking for deer.
They're sleeping in so far.
I wish we were sleeping.
Yes. I'm jealous right now.
Crystal looks out of the window and sighs. Crystal and Matt look bored.
Honestly, I thought hunting was going to be a lot more
Matt uses a toothpick.
bloodthirsty.
Matt and Crystal peering out the window. Crystal eats bacon from a bag.
But it's mostly just snacking so you stay awake. I guess if we were in the mountains, it would be a lot different. More hiking and stalking. Okay, I really thought hunting was going to be more active than this. But after having my daughter just 6 months ago, I'm not super fit. So honestly, I'm kind of glad it's not strenuous.
Crystal looks through binoculars.
After a few hours of sitting around glassing, that's a cool word for looking through binoculars, we decided to head back to the bunkhouse, planning to return that evening.
Matt and Crystal start to leave the ground blind. Crystal turns off the camera. Josh, Matt, and Crystal all shake hands.
Remember Josh Melby, the district wildlife manager from the firearms episode?
Crystal and Matt sit at the table.
I ran into him just before lunch with Matt, and he asked if I'd gotten a deer yet. I had to say not yet, and I tried to thank him for his help so far, and then he said something to me that changed how I thought of hunting forever. He said,
"You're doing me a favor. We're really overpopulated out here, and I need you to take some deer out of here, so..."
Would you please go shoot one?
And I was just thinking about that, and I was like, oh, and I said to him, I was like, wait, I thought you were helping me, but I'm helping you? And he was like, yes, you are helping me manage the deer out here. And I was like,
You are my only tool.
like, I know that hunters manage deer populations, but to like be in an interaction like that,
Yeah, cool.
where someone's like, no, please help, we're overpopulated, there's too many to like sustain the herd, I was like, oh, huh. It's just, like,
Perspective.
it was like really interesting to actually be in that and like be a part of
Well, while you're there with
the management. Like
deer.
for my job, like I say that and stuff and I believe it, but to like actually be a part of it was like it was like a pretty cool moment.
Nice. Cool.
I like reached a new level.
I'm happy for you. No, that's just one of the only things that we get out of this hunt. All well worth the time.
Yeah.
On-screen text later that day. A car drives down the road.
Hey, navigator, which way are we going?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, one job,
left.
Crystal. One job.
You know, I'm trying to do like 4 jobs right now. I'm filming, I'm navigating,
And I'm hunting. Seriously. Man, show some class. Be professional.
Time lapse of Crystal and Matt getting ready for the hunt. Matt closes the trunk of the car. Crystal walks off into the plains.
that afternoon, I changed my mind. I wanted to walk around and stalk. Enough sitting around already.
Crystal walks through the field. Matt explaining something to Crystal. Scenic eastern plains. Matt points at deer scat in the field. Matt points at deer tracks. Deer scat. Crystal gives a thumbs up. Crystal mouths, "We're close." Scenery of the Colorado Plains. Matt points off in the distance.
Matt's a great mentor. He didn't tell me until afterwards that stalking deer on an open plain isn't the best idea.
Matt makes a funny face.
He let me make the choices myself and experience the hunt on my own terms. I thought that was really cool.
Matt looks through binoculars, standing in the middle of the field. Beautiful orange sunset. Car driving at night. Text on screen, the last day. Someone looking at a cell phone. Early morning dark, Crystal walks through a field.
The next morning, we made our way to some private property we'd arranged as a plan B with a local landowner.
Scenery in the darkness.
We got advice from someone who had hunted there before and found ourselves seated out in the wide open with our backs to a water trough, trying to sit as still as possible.
Matt and Crystal seated. Crystal is holding a rifle.
That is when I saw the most beautiful sunrise in my entire life.
Beautiful sunrise on the eastern plains. Clouds roll by quickly. There's a tree in the middle. The sky turns pink, yellow, blue.
You don't know what birds in the wild sound like until you've sat outside for at least 30 minutes, absolutely still and quiet.
The sun breaks over the horizon. Matt points around Crystal's shoulder.
We saw a few deer,
Crystal looks through the scope of the rifle
but they were mule deer,
and looks up.
not the white-tailed deer I had a license for.
Crystal looks around the side of the rifle. Matt looks through binoculars. Matt shades his eyes. Crystal still looking. Crystal turns off the camera. Matt unzips the ground blind.
On the last evening of our hunt, we were sitting in the ground blind again.
Crystal looks around and sighs.
Every once in a while, we'd see a deer way off in the distance. And I mean way off. I couldn't even tell if it was a whitetail or a mule deer.
Scenery of the eastern plains through the ground blind window. Matt and Crystal sit in the ground blind. Crystal eats bacon out of a bag. Matt looks at a map on his phone.
Finally, we got to a point where there was only 30 minutes left. Not just until the end of the day for hunting, but 30 minutes left in the season. It was the last day to get a deer with the license I had. It was now or never.
Crystal looks resigned. She looks over at Matt. Crystal talks straight into the camera.
We're in a new location over here, within the same field. And it's starting when it's nighttime, so hopefully we get one.
Crystal looks around. Then back at the camera.
We're gonna be super, super quiet, which is really hard for two people to talk so much.
Crystal looks around again and scratches her forehead. The sun is setting.
What happened next was so unpredictable, I didn't get much footage of it. You'll see why. So I'm just gonna have to tell you what happened.
Crystal walks across an open plain holding a rifle. Crystal standing against a blank wall talking to the camera.
So Matt and I were sitting in the ground blind and there was just a few minutes left of the day and we had to go back the next day. And I really, really wanted that deer, you know? And so I said to Matt, I was like, hey, why don't we just go do a Hail Mary and walk around and see if we can find anything? There aren't any deer here, but like, let's just go over that ridge and see if they're just like right over there. We have nothing to lose, right? Again, Matt didn't tell me this at the time, but he was like, that's a terrible decision, but he let me do it anyway. And so we left the ground blind and we started to stalk.
Images of the hunt.
And we're going across this field and we're like going and I'm like army crawling and I'm like trying to get to that ridge. And finally we get to the ridge and we look over and there's nothing there. We could see for miles, there's nothing there. So this is a really weird thing about me, but I'm a stress cougher. So when I start getting really stressed out, I start coughing. And so that happened. I started coughing right in the middle of a wide open field. And Matt kind of walks away and I'm just like, I'm so stressed out because I didn't get my deer. I really wanted the food. I really wanted to make this series. I really wanted to be successful just this one time. And so I cough louder and louder and louder. And finally I hand Matt my rifle And then I start coughing so hard that I throw up, and I'm just standing there throwing up in the middle of the field, wide open. And Matt has my rifle. I handed him the camera, which is off, and I stand up, and all of a sudden, I saw a white-tailed doe literally about 10 feet away from me. And Matt, in the meantime, is right behind me, but he's looking in the other direction and he doesn't see it. So there is a white-tailed doe right there, and I freeze. And I go, Matt, psst, deer, 10 yards. And Matt told me later that in his head, he was thinking, Crystal must not know what 10 yards is. It was actually more like 10 feet, but yards was the only thing I had in mind. So I was like, Matt, 10 yards. So he turns and he looks over the deer and past it and doesn't see it. So he has no idea that this deer is like right in front of us. And so I'm trying to get him to be quiet, but also trying to point out that there's a deer literally right in front of us. And so finally he sees the deer, and we are just both frozen in midair. And the deer is looking straight at us, and the wind is going straight towards her. And then she moves. She puts her head down and she starts eating grass. And the second she does that, Matt slowly starts to hand me the rifle, and I grab it and she looks back up and we freeze. And then when she put her head down, I started slowly moving again, and then she looked up and we froze. And this went on for like 4 or 5 minutes. And finally I get down into a kneeling position, and by this time she's probably about 35 yards away. And I go, Matt, can I shoot? And he goes, other knee. And I was in like totally the wrong position on the ground for like a stable shot. So I had to like do that thing again where I switched legs and then like actually got in the right position. And I go, can I shoot? And he goes, if you want to, now is a good time. So I took the shot.
Fields of eastern Colorado. A bright circle highlights where the deer is. The deer runs to the left. The highlighted circle follows. Crystal holding a rifle. Crystal touches her face.
I just stood there and I was shaking. I was just shaking so hard. I did not expect that. It was honestly like super weird. And I was shaking really hard, and Matt put his hand on my shoulder and he told me that that was the adrenaline just like racing through my body. And then all he said was, it's gonna be okay. So we went and found the deer. She wasn't super far off, and she's just like 25 yards off maybe, but she had laid down and it was getting really dark. And so we went up to her and she was already down. And the weirdest thing was that Matt told me that to make sure she was gone, that I had to touch her eyeball. That was like the most uncomfortable part of the entire thing. And so I finally did that, and she was in fact gone.
Crystal fills out her hunting license.
And since it got dark really, really quickly, we had to quickly field dress her in the headlights of the truck. We went and got the truck, and by the time we came back, it was like really dark. And so I highly recommend getting big game earlier in the day. We were trying to get her and field dress her in the dark. And before we did that, Matt asked if I wanted to take a photo, and I said no, because the gripping grins are just like not really my thing. But I did want to put my hands on her, and so I did that, and I was really quiet, and I just thanked her for the food she was going to give my family, and then I told her she was really beautiful, and I like stroked her fur, and that's when Matt took a picture, and it's a very important photo to me now.
Photo of Crystal putting her hands on a white-tailed deer. Crystal looks nervous.
I'm actually getting emotional now, so I don't know what else to say.
White-tailed deer walks in slow motion away from the camera. On-screen text, Colorado Parks and Wildlife logo, my first big game hunt, the hunt. Crystal talks to the camera.
Hey everyone, thanks for following along on my big game hunting journey. Hunting license dollars are a super important source of funding for the wildlife conservation work that Colorado Parks and Wildlife does for all species in Colorado, not just the game species you can hunt. So we want to make it as easy as possible for you to buy a hunting license. If you've ever thought about going hunting or just considered the possibility, be sure to hit up our website or give us a call for more information. We'll link all the information in the YouTube description. If you like this video series and you want to see more videos that we make at Colorado Parks and Wildlife, be sure to subscribe on the YouTube link below. Thanks for watching.
Colorado Parks and Wildlife logo, live life outside.